They told you the world is simple. Work hard, wait your turn, trust the process. But you notice something. Those who rise don't move faster. They move quieter. They don't push. They arrange. They never run toward power. They let power arrive wearing their address. And the first rule, the one no one teaches you, is this. Control is never seized in daylight. It is planted at night and harvested at dawn. You wake each morning to a finished script. Prices have shifted. Words have been retired. New words have been recruited. You did not vote on any of this. The weather of your life, interest rates, policies, polite phrases, drifts in like fog, gentle and absolute. The powerful don't use force unless they must. They prefer weight. They prefer gravity. They prefer a world in which your own habits carry out their orders while you're busy trying to be a good person. But what if the war you're in has no uniforms? What if the battlefield is not land, but language? Power writes the dictionary, then consults it as proof. You're told this is fairness, that is greed, here is progress, there is risk. And when the meanings settle, money follows them like iron filings aligned to a hidden magnet. The magnet has no address. It has a vocabulary. They say transparency sets you free. Yet notice how the truth arrives. Summaries of summaries, footnotes hidden in applause. When a new policy appears, it is not new. It has been edited by committees of caution, softened by a PR whisper, pre-approved by advertisers who never appear in the minutes. You're invited not to think but to nod, not to evaluate but to adopt. You are handed a system and told to admire its equilibrium while it quietly siphons your time. And in that silence, the truth whispers. You ask, why am I stuck while others rise? The answer isn't merit, it's topology. They live upstream of your effort. You live downstream of their design. They don't work harder. They move the riverbed. Streams of capital carve grand canyons out of rules, carve shortcuts through jurisdictions, carve tax shelters out of fog. If you protest, you're told to hustle harder inside a maze designed for awe and exhaustion. Here's the part no one dares to admit. Poverty is not an accident. It is an outcome. Not always by conspiracy, but often by design. Small choices aggregated over decades by people who will never meet you. The game isn't rigged in the dramatic sense. It is tuned. The notes that favor you are removed. The notes that favor them are amplified. You are asked to keep singing the same song with a smile. And yet, the truth is darker. The most elegant control requires no chains. It needs no guards. It persuades you that the cage is preferable to the forest. You learn to love predictability. You mistake captivity for safety. You nod at slogans that sound compassionate while transferring your agency to systems that always return a receipt to the same addresses. And in that silence, the truth whispers. Watch closely. The wealthy don't shout. They rename. A monopoly becomes an ecosystem. Extraction becomes access. Surveillance becomes personalization. Philanthropy becomes strategy with a halo. Every moral blemish is reframed as a necessary compromise, every win as a gift to the public. The narrative is a rotoscope overlaying the world, tracing clean lines over messy realities until the image looks serene. You begin to see it. Nothing has changed, yet everything has been restated. A statistic moves from headline to footnote, and the mood shifts. A crisis is folded into an initiative, and the critics disarm themselves. The day ends with the same inequalities, but a different mood music. The war of wealth wins by diction, by cadence, by the timing of releases, and the omission that looks like compassion. But what if you stopped asking for the rules and started reading the subtext? The patterns emerge. Meetings that happen 3 layers off the calendar. Pilots that become policy before anyone is awake. Grants that redirect a movement without ever debating it. The map is simple once you see it. The aim is not to silence you. It is to choreograph you. And in that silence, the truth whispers. This is the hook. You've chased speed in a game of angles. You've chased applause in a theatre owned by your critics. The awakening is cold. It is not anger. It is geometry. Someone drew the lines before you arrived. They weren't evil. They were efficient. They ensured that when you labor, the slope is tilted and the runoffs pool in familiar basins. The war is silent because it is elegant. And the first countermove begins with a new lens. The decision to watch how words move money, how mood moves policy, how absence moves minds. Value is not discovered. It is declared. You've been told price is a reflection of worth, that markets are mirrors. But mirrors can be bent, and the richest hands bend them with a poet's restraint. In a quiet room, someone points at an object and says it is rare. Another says it is a masterpiece. A third says it is a moment. Soon, those words acquire a praise. See, not because the atoms changed, but because the story matured. A gavel falls. The applause becomes collateral. Scarcity is not always a fact. It is a mood with a pedigree. But what if wealth isn't pulled from nature so much as negotiated in narrative? The powerful don't need to prove value. They arrange consensus around it. Museums lend reputations like banks lend credit. Influencers run relay races with adjectives. A foundation funds a study. A journalist receives an exclusive. The category is born. The market smiles. And in that silence, the truth whispers. You sell your hours at a rate calculated by norms you didn't set. Your sweat is a commodity. Your attention is a commodity. Your privacy is a commodity. These are priced low because their supply seems infinite and your story is small. Meanwhile, a logo sells for millions, a signature for more, a rumor for more still. The pricing mechanism is not rational. It is theatrical and ruthless. The scarce resource is not diamonds or code. It is coordinated belief. Here's the part no one dares to admit. The illusion doesn't feel like a trick because everyone participates. The investor who buys the myth knows it's a myth, but believes others will buy it later for more. The critic who doubts it still writes about it, and the ink becomes oxygen. The skeptic who shrugs still attends the auction, because not attending feels like irrelevance. Value accretes where attention cannot look away. And yet, the truth is darker. Entire industries exist to curate the oxygen. Branding engineers do not ask what a product is, they ask what mood it can occupy. We don't sell coffee, they say. We sell morning. We don't sell phones, we sell intimacy. When morning is commodified and intimacy has a SKU, value becomes a permission slip to enter other people's lives without apology. And in that silence, the truth whispers. You ask, why am I stuck while others rise? Because you were told to chase the thing, not the meaning attached to it. The wealthy manufacture meanings, then rent them back to you. Limited drops, velvet ropes, insider calls, communities that function like gated imaginations. You are offered access to an idea of yourself, polished and scarce. The ticket price feels justified because it's denominated in identity. But what if you adopted their discipline of cold naming? What if you looked at every product and asked, what is the story being capitalized? What if you looked at your own work and asked, have I made it a category? Categories accumulate gravity, products orbit. The trick is to become the magnet that reorders the map, calmly, slowly, with words that feel inevitable. Here's the secret method. Anchor value to a future other people already want, then sell the certainty that it will arrive. Forecasts are not about data, they are theater performed in spreadsheets. Confidence is not a feeling, it is a distribution strategy. The graph goes up because enough people decided not to ask hard questions until next quarter. The line holds because shame punishes those who step out of consensus early. And in that silence, the truth whispers, stop waiting for the world to measure your worth with precision. It won't. It will always round down your humanity and round up its artifacts. If you want to win this kind of war, You must learn to read valuation as literature. Who benefits from this metaphor? Who authored its scarcity? Who rehearsed this adjective until it felt like granite? When you can answer, you can refuse the price without refusing the world. Value, then, is a ritual. The wealthy preside, the rest attend. Change the ritual, change the price. But never forget, the richest among us did not simply buy objects. They bought the right to define which objects matter. And once you see that, your hunger becomes colder, your gaze less dazzled. You begin to save your belief for things that do not counterfeit it. You trade spectacle for sight. They taught you to obey with a smile. Clocks and calendars shape your movements. Policies sculpt your speech. You think you are acting freely because the leash is velvet. You call it culture. You call it professionalism. You call it best practice. But obedience by any other name still arranges your nervous system to place comfort over clarity. Here's the part no one dares to admit. Fear trains faster than thought. Your body anticipates consequences. Your face calibrates in real time. A raised eyebrow from the right person can redirect a decade of your life. You apologize, you soften, you conform, not because data changed your mind, but because belonging changed your priorities. You didn't choose the tribe. The tribe's temperature chose you. And in that silence, the truth whispers. The masses aren't controlled by facts. They're guided by feelings packaged as facts. A story that relieves anxiety beats a truth that increases it, 9 times out of 10. This is the equation the powerful solve daily. Reduce public discomfort while advancing private advantage. Make people feel safe while rearranging the furniture. Give them an exit sign. Lead them to a locked door. Apologize for the inconvenience. Offer premium access. But what if emotion is not the enemy? Only unexamined emotion. Your fear of exclusion, your hunger for praise, your exhaustion at ambiguity, each can be mapped and monetized. Engagement, after all, is just arousal with a dashboard. Rage holds eyeballs. Envy buys upgrades. Panic renews subscriptions. Meanwhile, the calm that could free you is dismissed as boring. And yet, the truth is darker. The most refined obedience is self-administered. You become your own warden. You censor yourself before anyone asks. Your jokes are pre-approved. Your outrage arrives on schedule. You perform dissent with the costumes provided, never noticing the stage manager measuring decibels from the wings. And in that silence, the truth whispers, so how do they keep the crowd compliant? With 3 simple architectures. First, ritual, repeating habits that feel sacred. Stand, sit, pledge, like, share. The repetition lulls the sentinel part of your mind. Second, credential, symbols of authority that compress your skepticism. Titles, badges, blue checks, podiums, bios. Third, schedule, a tempo that replaces reflection with reaction. If you fear it, a attention is always urgent. Your choices will never be sovereign. But what if you altered your internal cadence? What if you let alerts wait, let trends pass, let provocation fade? The spell breaks when time expands. Reflection is disobedience in a culture of immediacy. Silence is sabotage in an economy of noise. To think is to defect, politely. Here's a strategy. Separate information from mood. Ask, what is the claim? How would it feel if it were false? Who is selling relief here? You will notice how often the pitch arrives wrapped in your favorite feelings. You will notice how the scarcest resource is not attention, but neutrality. The capacity to let a message touch your ears without touching your spine. And in that silence, the truth whispers. Remember, the powerful do not need you to love them. They need you to need them. Need is the leash. They become the interpreter of crisis, the oracle of safety, the concierge of your anxiety. They translate chaos for you, then charge for the subtitles. If you decline, you are labeled reckless. If you accept, you are labeled responsible. Both labels are cages. one is plush. You ask, what does defiance look like then? Not rebellion for its own applause, not theatre. Defiance looks like sobriety. It looks like declining to be moved on schedule. It looks like being unmarketable to panic. It looks like owning your registry of fears and refusing to outsource its management. When you become boring to manipulators, you become dangerous to them. When power is threatened, it doesn't fight the facts. It edits what you can see. The richest method is not censorship. It is curation. Flood the room with 1,000 true but irrelevant details until the single relevant truth drowns quietly. Then point at the flood and say, "We are transparent." But what if transparency is just volume? The more they show, the less you grasp. Perception is guided like a hand over wet paint. You look where they nod. You look when they tell you it's safe. Your outrage is scheduled. Your relief is orchestrated. The narrative is not a lie, it's a lighting design. And in that silence, the truth whispers. Here's the method they repeat because it works. Narrative triage. Sacrifice a small villain to save a large machine. A resignation letter becomes a ritual washing. The public forgives the king if the pawn weeps. Agenda flooding. Release a cascade of minor announcements around a major loss. The day's memory fragments by dinner. Lexicon laundering. Rename failures. Iterations. Rename cuts, optimizations. Rename layoffs, realignments. Language becomes ergonomic, comfortable for the hand, unforgiving to the truth. And yet, the truth is darker. Infrastructure itself is a narrative. Shell companies write silence into law. Tax codes encode preferences and teach them to pretend they are math. Think tanks vocalize tomorrow so that when tomorrow arrives, it feels like a promise kept. Perception isn't an accident, it's a supply chain. But what if you could see the switchboards? Begin with a simple audit. Who stands to profit if this headline is believed? Who loses if the framing changes? Which facts are uno, agreeable? And why are they placed where they are? If a single sentence disappears, does the conclusion still hold? These questions are acetone on varnish. The painting beneath will start to show. And in that silence, the truth whispers, the powerful are not gods. They are editors. They don't always invent reality. They rewrite pacing. They master entrances and exits, what the public learns first, what it learns last, and what it never learns. They understand that the brain privileges primacy and recency. They shape both. What happens in the middle can be messy. Memory is merciful. Here's the part no one dares to admit. People do not change their minds when they are embarrassed. They double down. Thus, controlling perception is a study of gracious exits. Give the crowd a dignified path from wrong to less wrong without shame, and they will follow. Humiliate them with a blunt correction, and they will burn the evidence to keep their pride warm. The wealthy never correct you. They update with you. But what if the countermove is to cultivate a private lens? You stop trusting the chorus and start listening for the solo. You learn to detect the telltale buzz of coordinated timing. You notice the same phrases appearing in distant mouths, the same apologetics sung in different keys. Coordination is not a conspiracy. It's a habit of those who share a calendar. And in that silence, the truth whispers. Your leverage is not yelling louder. It is placing your mind at a higher vantage above the fog. You establish a personal protocol. Do not respond within the hour. Never confuse drama with substance. Ask for original sources. Measure the incentives of the messenger before the message. Perception turns from a storm that carries you to a wind you can tack against. You will not always be right. You will frequently be late. But your lateness will be sturdy. Your conclusions will be expensive to manipulate. Awareness has a cost. It does not come as applause. It arrives as distance. People you love will tell you you're becoming cold. They will say you're cynical. They will say you're ungrateful for the comforts provided by systems you now critique. They won't be wrong. Gratitude is easy when you stop asking where the gifts came from. But what if the colder posture is not bitterness, only a refusal to warm your hands at a fire built from your own illusions? Machiavellian awareness is not cruelty. It's consent withdrawn from the theater. You do not hiss at the stage. You stop paying for front row seats. You stop rehearsing lines you didn't write. You reclaim the luxury of slow thought in a culture hostile to it. And in that silence, the truth whispers. Here's the part no one dares to admit. When you exit a narrative, the narrative will not forgive you. Invitations thin. Opportunities evaporate. People who loved your predictability will mourn your absence, then punish your presence. You will be called difficult. You will be called intense. You will be called negative. Accept it. The price of a sovereign mind is the discomfort of those who rented it. And yet, the truth is darker. Awakening without strategy becomes performance art. Rage is a leash as tight as fear. Moral theater feeds the same mills it claims to fight. You don't owe the world your outrage. You owe your future your structure. Build boring power, reserves of cash, clarity of priorities, contracts that outlast moods, alliances with people who prefer truth to trend. But what if application is not heroic at all? It's dull. It's private. It's a list you review weekly. Reduce liabilities that make you emotionally blackmailable. Remove subscriptions to outrage. Replace ambient panic with a calendar. Read original sources. Map the money behind your favorite opinions. Practice saying, I don't know yet. The world will sprint past. Let it. When you move, you'll move with finality. And in that silence, the truth whispers. Your identity shifts. You become unreadable, not mysterious, simply unprogrammable. Emotion continues to flow through you, but not on schedule. You can feel while remaining unreachable. Praise finds you. You nod and return to your work. Insults arrive. You nod and return to your work. Your attention budget becomes sacred. You spend it like an investor, not a gambler. Here's the paradoxical ending. Power, the kind that seduced you when you were younger, dims in its appeal. Control over others feels brittle, small. The only control that grows is over the self. Your narrative inputs, your reaction thresholds, your choice of what to audit and what to ignore. You stop policing the world. You police your lens. And through that lens, influence starts to follow. Not because you chased it, but because clarity is an attractive gravity. And in that silence, the truth whispers. Perhaps you won't change the world tonight, but you will change the part of the world that uses you. You will become an uncooperative host. Parasites of panic will starve. Levers that once moved you will fail. Those who arranged your obedience will feel it in ways they cannot measure. You have exited their operating system. You have installed your own. You came looking for answers. You found a mirror. Not to admire yourself, but to watch the narrative trying to recruit your reflection. Tonight you saw how value is declared, how obedience is rehearsed, how perception is arranged like furniture in a room you didn't design. You learned that control isn't loud, it's patient. It speaks in timing. It edits what you see and calls the edit truth. If you've come this far, you already feel the shift. The need for constant spectacle loosens. The appetite for clarity grows. You are less available to manipulation, less obedient to urgency, less impressed by price when it's only theater wearing numbers. This is not a revolution. It's an alignment. A quiet refusal to be rented by the hour. So stay. Keep thinking. Keep returning to the long view. Because awareness is leverage, and silence is where leverage multiplies. Subscribe, not for content, but for continuity. Not for noise, but for a circle of minds that prefer the cold accuracy of truth to the warm gravity of illusion. This is more than a channel. It's a small, disciplined rebellion against the choreography of distraction. If you're ready to see deeper, step into the silence with us.